Hello bookworms, it's Jade from Bedtime Bookworm and welcome back to my channel. This is the start of another reading vlog. Okay, so today is November 19th. Yes, the 19th. It's actually been like one day less than a week since I ended my last reading vlog, but I've finished a couple things, and so it's time for another update. I've actually been reading a lot, at least I feel like I've been reading a lot, and it's been feeling really good to be really getting into the groove of things. I am still behind on my Goodreads goal. I was like 4 books behind on my Goodreads goal. I think I'm now like 2 books behind on my Goodreads goal, so I feel like I might be able to make it, but I am reading this chunker here, so I don't know. We'll see. I'm definitely going to try to read some short things in December, but we'll have to wait for my December TBR to figure all of that out. So since my last check-in, since I ended my last vlog, I finished The House in the Cerulean Sea by TJ Klune. I don't have my physical copy anymore. I took it back to the library because it was overdue, but I did finish it actually a number of days before I had work book club, which is why I was reading this. I actually had work book club last night, and I'm happy to report that everybody enjoyed it. There were only 4 of us, so it's not like it was a huge group of people, but it was one of my nominations, and I was kind of surprised that it won because we don't always read like fantasy, but everybody who read it really enjoyed it. They were so glad that I nominated it and said that it was like one of their favorite things that they read all year, which makes me so happy. It was also one of my favorite things that I've read all year. Spoiler alert for my like best of the year books, but I loved it so much. If you haven't heard of this one before, it's an adult contemporary fantasy. It is just such a sweet, cozy fantasy book, and it has so many good messages in it, and it has such a like whimsical feel. In my last video, I was talking about how I was enjoying it a lot, but it's kind of outside my comfort zone, and I wasn't really sure if it was going to be a favorite, if I would really give it 5 stars, because it's not really like a super complex book. But in the end, I did give this 5 stars because in addition to just finding all of the characters to be adorable and so lovable, this book had so many good messages in it that I really enjoyed reading. This book is about embracing life and doing things that you're scared of, and also about not judging people for what they look like on the surface. And it's about love and finding your family. There's definitely a found family trope. I can't say enough good things about this. I loved it so much. I really wasn't sure what I was going to think of it going in because it's not the kind of book I pick up usually, but I loved it so much. Even at book club last night, all of us were kind of talking about some of our favorite characters and favorite moments, but it's not really like a book club book. Like there's not a lot to discuss about it. It was just us gushing about how adorable and cute and lovely this book was and how much we loved it. Like that was book club. I definitely think this is the perfect book to read in 2020 because many of us have been having a really tough year. This book just gives you all the warm fuzzies and has such good messages, and just read it, okay? Just read it. The other thing that I have finished since my last check-in is Dawn Shard. This is the novella. It's about 200 pages that comes chronologically between Oathbringer and Rhythm of War, which are part of the Stormlight Archives series by Brandon Sanderson. I wasn't really sure if I was going to pick this one up before Rhythm of War. I didn't think I was going to have time. I ended up having time, and a lot of my friends recommended picking it up. They thought that it had some important things in it, and in the end I'm really glad that I read it. I do think you can skip it. It definitely has more like implications for the Cosmere, but I've already started reading Rhythm of War. I'm not very far into it, but I'm already like appreciating that I read Dawn Shard because like one of the characters has popped back up, and I just like already know kind of their history and stuff, and it just gives you a little more context. So I do recommend reading it. I don't think it's a must, but especially if you're interested in the more like Cosmere implications, you should definitely read it. I don't have a whole lot to say about Dawn Shard. It's really short. I will say that the main character in it is Risen, who you have met in a couple of the Stormlight Archives books already. And it also has to do with this island that you visit briefly in an interlude in Oathbringer. I'm trying to be vague about it, but I do want to say that because I didn't realize that going in. I knew it was about Risen, but I didn't know it was also about this island, this like mysterious island hint, hint, like if you read Oathbringer, hopefully that's enough for you to know what I'm talking about. But once I realized it was about that island, I got really excited because I wanted to know more about that island. So if that interlude was interesting to you in Oathbringer, then that's another reason to check out Dawn Shard. Anyways, I really enjoyed it. I gave it 4 stars. Nothing really wrong with it. It's just really short and not like a super favorite, so I didn't give it 5 stars. The other thing I mentioned at the end of my last clip was that I had started Sort of Kaigen by M.L. Wang. I do have this on ebook and audiobook, both of which I purchased from Amazon. I am now about 30%, maybe 35% into it, and I'm enjoying it for the most part. I will say I was a little hesitant in the first few, like, 5 chapters maybe. I was struggling a little bit with the world building. There was some info dumpiness, and I can be a little bit picky about the way world building and history of the world is conveyed. There's just some ways of info dumping that I don't enjoy reading, and that happened a couple of times already, like in the beginning of the book. It's an adult fantasy that is Asian inspired, and I haven't watched Avatar: The Last Airbender, but I'm getting a lot of Avatar: The Last Airbender feels. The magic is elemental magic, and it's very inspired by the Japanese culture, just the way that people talk to each other, like refer to each other. There's a lot of like words that I don't know if they are actually Japanese, but sound Japanese. In fact, I think sometimes I feel like it's a little too much of like made up words, but I do see how it helps to really set the setting and everything. There is a glossary in the back, and I definitely have been using that, and that helps, but I don't like that I'm having to rely so heavily on the glossary. But I will say like the last 10% that I've been reading, so maybe like after the first quarter of the book, I've been enjoying a lot more. I'm really enjoying the characters. There's 2 main characters. One is a 14-year-old boy and one is his mother. I'm really loving the mother's character. She's super fascinating, and I'm enjoying seeing her role in the story as far as like trying to juggle motherhood and her relationship with her son. So I have a feeling that this book is going to really hit me in my emotional feels, and that I'm really gonna enjoy it from that aspect. And now that I'm getting a little more used to the world building and the magic system, I think I'm going to be enjoying it a lot more. But I definitely was a little hesitant at first and kind of struggled with some of the info dumping and some of the language, like the Japanese or fake Japanese words that are in the book. I'm trying to finish it before the end of the month because this is actually the Shelf Space Book Club book for November, and there's going to be a live stream I think at the beginning of December, and that's going to be over on my friend Jessie May's channel, and I believe the guest host is Elliot Brooks, who is also a really good friend of mine, so that's kind of the reason why I am trying to read it this month, because I want to watch the live show. Alright guys, those are the things that I have. Oh, I can't end this here. There's one more thing that I've been reading that I haven't told you about. That is, of course, Rhythm of War. So today's Thursday, Rhythm of War came out on Tuesday. I actually started Rhythm of War on Monday evening because Brandon Sanderson had put out some chapters on his website and also the audiobook chapters, like the first 17 audiobook chapters on YouTube before the release. I had only finished Dawn Shard on Sunday, so I had Monday to try to get a little bit of a head start, and I listened to like 3 chapters of the audiobook on YouTube, and then at like 11:30 the ebook showed up on my Kindle, and also I was able to download the audiobook because those are the 2 versions of Rhythm of War that I purchased. But today my husband went and picked this up from the library for me. It is the physical copy of Rhythm of War, and I am the first person to read this copy. That's always such a cool feeling, to be the first person to like touch the library copy. I am currently this far into it, so not very far. Well, it is 140 pages, but it's 9 chapters. I have really been enjoying it. It's definitely kind of gotten off to a good start. I don't know if I want to say it like hit the ground running exactly, but it definitely hasn't been boring. This is definitely going to be taking a big majority of my focus for the rest of the month. I don't think I will finish this before November is over, but probably in early December. We'll just have to see how it goes. But I am super excited about this. All of my friends that are reading it are really enjoying it. I don't really think I've heard anybody say too much negative about it, at least out of like my circle of friends. So I am super excited about this, and I'm so glad to finally have my hands on a copy. If you're wondering, I didn't purchase a physical copy for myself because I prefer to collect the paperbacks, and of course, because this is a new release, the paperback won't be out for like a year. So I knew I didn't want to purchase a physical copy, and that's why I requested it from my library. And luckily, I requested it early enough that I was able to get it right away. Alright guys, now that is everything that I have been reading over the last week or so. Hopefully you guys are having a good reading week. Let me know if you guys are also reading Rhythm of War. I mean, by the time this video goes up, it won't be just 2 days after release, so you'll probably be a lot further in it than I am at this moment. Anyways, I will check in with you guys in about a week and give you another update on how my reading's been going. Bye. Hey guys, so today is the Saturday after Thanksgiving, November 28th. I meant to film this yesterday, but the past 2 days, so all day Thanksgiving and all day the day after Thanksgiving, I played Ghost of Tsushima, which is a video game. I haven't played video games in a while. I've been in a really big reading mood, but I have been kind of missing video games lately, and I don't know what it is about the holidays, like Thanksgiving and Christmas when I have some time off of work, but I just really love falling into a video game and playing for hours. And I didn't mean to play for as long as I did, but once you start, it's kind of really hard to stop. So I played for like 10 hours on Thanksgiving and 10 hours the day after Thanksgiving. We didn't have any family get-togethers, it was just my husband and I, so there was nothing else to do other than reading and doing YouTube stuff, which was my original plan. If you guys like storyline-based kind of RPG games, Ghost of Tsushima is really cool. The fighting is really different from anything that I've played before, and at first it was like really hard, but now I've kind of gotten used to it and I'm really enjoying it. Ghost of Tsushima is also a beautiful game. The art and the cinematography is just gorgeous. So that's what I've been up to for a couple of days, but it's time to give you guys another reading update. It's been a little over a week since I last checked in, and I actually have finished something. So since my last check-in, I finished The Sword of Kaigen by M.L. Wang. And actually, that's the book that really put me in the mood to play Ghost of Tsushima, because that book is very inspired by Japanese culture. And once I finished the book, I was like really missing that Japanese culture, and that's why out of the multiple games I had to pick from, I picked playing Ghost of Tsushima. Anyways, The Sword of Kaigen, man, I have so many mixed feelings about this book. A lot of people really love this book, and I can totally see why. After I filmed my last clip, I still really enjoyed it for another 30%. I'd say like the 25 to 60% part of this book was so good. It was so intense and very emotional. There were 2 chapters that made me cry like a lot. I really loved the characters. I thought they were well fleshed out. And there was even like one character that I didn't really like, but by the end of the book, the author had like made me change my mind about that character. So the character work was great. My biggest complaint about the book, other than some of the world building info dumping at the very beginning, is the pacing was just really weird for me. And the second half, the last 40% of the book, really fell flat. It was almost like the book climaxed at like the 40 to 50% mark, and then the last half of the book was kind of just like a lot of repercussions of what happened in that like middle quarter or middle third of the book. It was kind of interesting to like explore how the things that happened in the really intense part of the book affected the characters for the rest of the book and the way that those things were dealt with. But I just wanted more out of the ending. I thought that maybe we were building up to something else, like another climax before the end of the book, and it just never came. I felt like there were some hints at some interesting stuff, and then it kind of all just like fell apart, especially in the last couple of chapters. And I think part of that was that the author was tying this book into some other books that they had already written that take place 15 years after this book does. They were leaving these little threads and then like roughly tying them up in the last chapter, but also tying them to this other book series. And it really did not work for me. The last chapter was super anticlimactic, and I really didn't like the way that the book ended, which is so frustrating because like that 25 to 60% mark, I was really enjoying it, and I thought I might give it 5 stars, and then from like the 50-60% mark, it just went downhill, and then the ending totally fell flat, and I was super disappointed. So I was really torn about what rating to give the book. I mean, it did evoke so much of an emotional response from me for part of it that I didn't feel like a 3-star was really doing it justice. And the more that I thought about it, I settled on a 4-star rating. I do think that it's probably kind of like a 3.5 that I'm rounding up to 4 because of the emotional impact. There were some really cool things. The world building was really cool. Like I said, the characters were fantastic and really well fleshed out. And I was so emotionally invested in those characters. But the plot and the pacing were just not working for me, and the last half of the book was really disappointing, especially with the way the book ended. I really did not like the ending of the book. I actually read the last few chapters, or the last 2 chapters of this on a live reading sprint with Andy from Andy Smith's channel. I will link that live stream down below for those of you guys who have read the book, because we both finished it together on the live stream and we talked about the ending. So you can really see some more in-depth spoilery thoughts on what I thought of the ending and what Andy thought of the ending in that live stream. So I'll link that for you for those of you who have watched it and are interested in some more spoilery thoughts and reasons why the ending was so disappointing. I am definitely interested in reading more from this author if they write more books. There were enough things about this book that I really enjoyed that I definitely want to check out more of their stuff. Okay, and then the other thing that I've been making pretty good progress on, not as much as I would like, of course, but that is Rhythm of War by Brandon Sanderson. I am on page 297, which is the beginning of part 2. So I have read all of part 1, and I just read the interludes earlier today, so I've read this much of it. Percentage-wise, I have no idea what percent that is. Hold on. Percentage-wise, that is 24% of the book, so I've read a quarter of it. I was hoping to read all of part 2 over the Thanksgiving holiday, the 4-day weekend, but I only have 1 day left of that weekend, so I don't think that's gonna happen. Too much Ghost of Tsushima. What are you gonna do? Sometimes it's hard to juggle all of your hobbies. But I am still hoping to read the rest of this pretty soon. I don't have a whole lot to say. I am really enjoying it. There have been a ton of world building reveals that are making my head reel, and I'm just trying to piece it all together and fit it all inside my brain. I am doing more book diaries or really spoilery reading vlogs for this book as I go along, which is another thing that's kind of been slowing me down from reading this, but I am gonna make it more of a priority like now. But to no surprise, I am loving this. And then the last thing that I've been reading, which I didn't think I would be able to finish by the end of the month, and I know I only have like 2.5 more days, but I might be able to finish Kilman Creek by Rachel Kane. I'm like 35% through it. I've read this much of it. But this one's going by really, really quickly. It's a thriller, so it's really easy to read, and this is what I've been reading as I fall asleep. And I also have the audiobook. I have been wanting to read Kilman Creek for a long time. I read the first book in this thriller series a 1.5 years ago, but another reason why I wanted to read this like now is because Rachel Kane just passed away. She had been battling cancer for a really long time. I mentioned in one of my previous reading vlogs that she had decided to go into hospice, and she passed away not too long after that, which is very sad. And I haven't read enough of her books. Actually, the first one in this series, which is called Stillhouse Lake, is the only one of her books that I've read. And she's got some YA fantasy that I definitely am interested in checking out. But this is an adult thriller, and honestly, it kind of hit the ground running. The stakes are high already, and things are kind of intense, and I'm nervous for these characters, and I'm excited to see how this goes. I really love the mother character in this book. So in the first one, it's about a mom and her kids, and it's about how this woman in the past didn't realize that her husband was a serial killer until like somebody crashed a car into their garage and it revealed these dead bodies. She's been kind of like on the run and in hiding since then because people think that she was an enabler and like knew that her husband was a serial killer and didn't do anything about it, but she really didn't know. So she's kind of like this really badass mom who has to like really fight to protect her kids, and I really like her character. And in this book, you get more POVs. You get POVs from her kids and also one of the other characters you met in the last book. I really find the characters realistic and the relationships realistic, and it's just been a lot of fun. So I've been reading this. I've also been doing this as a buddy read with my friend Graf. We both wanted to read it in honor of Rachel Kane. So this one has been a lot of fun, and I might try to finish it before the end of the month. I only have a couple more days, but like I said, this one has been going really fast. Alright guys, those are the things that I have been reading over the last week. Let me know down in the comment section what you guys have been reading, or let me know what you thought on any of the things that I've been reading. If you liked this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel for more bookish content. That is all I have for now. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time, bookworms, keep reading. Bye.